Welcome to another episode of Behind the Shadows, the podcast dedicated to talking all things shadows with the cast, crew, and celebrity fans. Today's guest is our two new favorite twins to show us how to renovate and spruce our home. They talk about how the laughs don't stop when in between takes and in the shadows, and they gush over their brand new favorite director in the biz. Find out who that is with Randy and Jason Sklar.
Breathing is so overwhelming, heartbeats are a hassle. Tell me, why would anyone want to be alive? Death might have a reputation before she arrives, but trust me, we have way more fun in the afterlife. We have way more fun in the afterlife.
All right, I'm super excited for today's guests. They are my new favorite twin brothers.
Hey, who did we supplant?
Yeah, there's a lot. Okay, there was a lot of people on that list, and Randy and Jay Sklar are our new favorite property brothers, if you will. They have joined the world of what we do in the shadows, and in this week's episode, they were absolutely phenomenal. And I am so excited to have you both on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. And it was so much fun to get to shoot with you last November for almost a month. You were amazing, fun to work with. And Randy and I always say, like, there are jobs that we get that we're grateful for all the work, but then you get a job on a show that you've been watching. And you're like, wait, I get to actually do these things with these people that I'm a little starstruck by because this is a show in my queue that I watch every week. And then you're like, I hope I don't screw it up and I hope we're as good as they are. And it adds a whole new layer.
Well, speaking of, we were so excited to have you on the show, obviously, but you said you were fans of the show before. So were you a fan of the movie and then the show, or was the show your first experience?
So movie, I mean, we go way back with Jermaine and, Flight of the Conchords and those guys, meeting them back in like 2000. And we did I'll never forget a show we did with them in Seattle where we went on right before them. And that was like in front of like 3,000 people. We each did headlining sets. And so we go way back with them. So when the movie came out, I was super excited to see the movie and I loved it so much. And, you get this moment where you're like, oh my God, how are they going to make a TV series that can actually hold up to the movie? And then there are those TV series where you're like, oh my God, they're doing stuff in this series that they couldn't do in the movie, or that takes it further and goes into different places, and it has a life of its own, and it becomes like your favorite thing. I think it's the best comedy on TV right now.
Well, thank you very much. And now you guys are a part of our world. This week we saw that, unfortunately, Jay, you have an early demise in the show. When you read the script, what did you think?
Does anyone ever really die in this world? I mean, we saw the Baron come back and get a full rejuvenation of his body, which, I mean, that was hilarious.
Which is true. That's the first time, one of the few times that you've ever seen Doug Jones out of prosthetics, out of not acting with an actual full face of makeup or prosthetic. Mm-hmm. And I just saw him yesterday, actually, here in Seattle, and he was, the fans have been like raving. Can you imagine having a career where you're known for all these creatures and whatnot, and no one knows what your face looks like? And so you're right. No one dies in the show, and I hope that you come back with a nice looking neck, because I think Naja did a number on you.
She goes in on that. And the best part about that is when I get killed immediately as we walk in the house, which is hilarious. They had a rig inside of my shirt that is spraying blood, and I just remember them being like, it's not enough blood. We need more. Turn up the power on that thing. And so all this blood, she gets at my neck and all this blood starts spraying out. I'm just sitting in a pool of this cold blood. And I'm thinking to myself, this is everything you always want to do. Like, you want to have a sensational dying moment on screen at some point in your life. And it was beautiful. And what I loved about her, okay, this is why she's so great, because we were sort of the deep background moment of that. Like, we weren't necessarily the focus of that scene, because Randy and Matt just sort of walk into the foreground and start having this conversation about what they want to do with the house. But we're in the background and she's just feasting on me. And she's like, we're in the background, but she's still going at it as if it was the focus of the scene. And I'm like, that's why this show is great. Everybody is like a pro, and everybody, they don't know. How about the first scene, Harvey, that we shot, where I'm speaking to the camera like it's our show, Go Flip Yourself, and Matt is like right behind me. So right behind me, there's really funny stuff going on, and then you and Kayvon are in the back dumping the body in the thing, and you guys are being hilarious in the deep. I mean, there's a joke, and then there's a joke, and then there's a joke way back there. It's, again, speaks to why this show's so goddamn great.
And you guys were so funny. I remember that first day on set, which, by the way, we're shooting up in Toronto. It's middle of winter, and you guys have been up there, but that was cold, right? That was a pretty cold
oh my God,
night shoot. And it was the first scene we're shooting. And I mean, this episode is quickly becoming one of my favorites, just because it takes us into a different world out of the documentary world, but into the like HDTV kind of idea of like your home. And it's so well done. Your opening credits to your show, where you're like just smashing, and they're like,
oh my God,
you're the back-to-back brothers, and those poses and the camera and the way it pans out from like people opening their blindfolds and looking at their new home. Just so funny. When you read the script, what were your thoughts? Like, I mean, people always ask, how much do you improvise on this show? And now you get to experience, going up there and shooting with us for like over a month. What was your experience like? What did you think? What were your expectations, and what you really experienced?
So the audition came through, and of course, we're like huge fans of the show. I mean, like watching every episode, waiting for the next season to come out. And we were like, oh my God, I love this show so much. And we started reading the script, and we were like, wait, was this written for us to do? We kind of got really excited, and then we're like, oh my God, don't screw it up. Do not F it up. And so my daughter, I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she's like, goes to theater high school and wants to be a director and all this stuff. And she shot our audition. So we were going to like do it like on a white wall and kind of do it. She's like, no. I want to shoot it like outside, like pretend like you're coming up to our house. And she actually gave us some really good notes in the audition. I was really proud of her and how she shot it. It looked really cool. And what was great about that is we did it because you can self-tape and you want it to look good. We did it enough times that the scene became very much a part of who we were, so that when we went and shot on that first day and we had that stuff, like you went home and we shot the beginning stuff that night. We were the last shots that night, but we had already done it for the audition, and we had done it. But so when we did it and sent it in, we thought to ourselves, if we don't get this, then we should probably quit the business.
quit the business.
Right. Because we're like, we love what we did. We said they'll either go one of two ways. They'll either try and get the actual Property Brothers, which is definitely a choice to like try and get those guys. And those guys would definitely do it. Or get someone who's kind of similar to that, or they'll go in our direction. And we were hoping they would, because we knew if they went our way, there's so much other comedy that can come out. We know we can bring so much to it beyond just being like house flipping guys. And so what emerged, and as you saw throughout the whole thing, is like the relationship between my character and Matt's character throughout the whole episode, like got much deeper and much like closer, which to me is wonderful, because then the reveal at the end, when you pull the rug out from under everything, is just that much more of a dick move.
It's a betrayal. Like, it's such a deep betrayal.
And so Matt was very generously falling for everything that Bran was dishing out. And the more he fell for it, the more I started to do it. And so there were moments where, you're just doing conversation as you're kind of walking out and playing the scene out, and you're improvising that conversation. And it was like, he was giving me so much that then let the setup and the punch at the end be so great. That's what everybody did. I mean, you were phenomenal in the scene. There was a moment where Natasha's like hypnotizing us, and she's like, well, who else knows about this? And there were a couple of things in there, but the writers are like, just continue to go. So I just start listing all these people. I'm like, the producer has a girlfriend who had
and that made it. That's in the cut.
I can't believe that made it in. I haven't seen it.
We have way more fun in the afterlife.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Throughout my personal journey and professional career, life has had its fair share of tricks and treats. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have access to therapy to help me through those tricky experiences. BetterHelp has made therapy accessible. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. If you ever considered therapy but thought getting started was too complicated or expensive, I assure you it's worth it. And BetterHelp takes all the stress away. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. And getting therapy every week as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or phone. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional therapies in all 50 states. And they have a special offer for my listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/shadowspodcast. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/shadowspodcast. Now back to the show.
And the best is so I get killed pretty quickly, but I'm up in Toronto and I still have some stuff to do here and there, but I'm not going to just sit in my hotel room or walk around Toronto by myself. I love this show so much. I came to the set days when I wasn't even necessarily shooting that much. And I just remember I was like on the set because I love being around you guys. I loved hanging in the room and just talking to people. And then I would also pitch Randy like little jokes between scenes where I'm like, try this, throw this in, throw that in. So I kind of became like a little mini writer's room for Randy to throw in some improvs. I'm like, call him Lazmataz, call him this, call him that. Like, you're getting comfortable with this guy. And if they don't like it, they'll tell you to stop. And they kind of they loved that sort of very like bougie, like boozy, like
a little too relaxed, a little too comfortable with everyone sort of a guy. And as soon as we got into that, I was like, oh, this is exactly I know who this guy is all the way.
I think my favorite line that you guys say are the Brett that says, what is it? Hey, you knucklehead. Like, it just became like the ongoing thing. You knuckleheads. Yeah.
Hey, knuckleheads, you gonna tell this son of a bee to go flip himself? Jay gave me that line. Son of a bee is like
son of a bee.
You can tell this son of a, like, this guy can't curse. Like, there's something about him that's like, hey, you can tell this son of a bee to go flip himself. I mean, it's that once you sort of figure out who that guy is, then you just lean into him so hard. And again, it's like so different. What I love is like, it's so different from the energy. What I was saying about you and before we started recording, I think this season has been phenomenal and awesome for your character. You've gotten so much great physical comedy. I mean, to me, when you open up the door to the side room and the feathers are everywhere because you've just basically had a huge thing and they're just settling down. I mean, I'm sure as you are, I can just imagine you on set and they're like, okay, fluff the feathers. And then the door opens and it's coming down. You're like, what? There's nothing going on here. And even when you're sitting down and that one feather falls on your mouth, I was laughing so hard and I'm like, I love it. Jay, you were saying how you were just loving the deepening of his character.
Because what I love about it is like, so you think about the journey that your character was on, which is like, for the longest time at the beginning, it was wanting to be a vampire. And that was the main drive. And that was just like wanting to transform oneself is really the drive there, right? To become the thing that you thought you always wanted to be. Then to reveal that like you're your family and lineage is the arch enemy, which I loved in that episode where your whole family came to the house for the first time. And then you realize it's not just like hiding these people and this truth from your family. It's that they all could possibly kill your friends, which to me is like, now you're put in the position to protect those people. And then the fact that like you come out to your family and they're like, we know that, but like, you want to be a vampire? Like that moment is hilarious. And to me, that's such a great moment for your character. And obviously it's like the heart of the show is like in the moment where Nandor's puts his hand on your shoulder and is like, you are my best. And like, I'm sitting in my living room being like, just say friend, man. Just fucking say friend. Say you are my best friend. And he says man, which, by the way, in my mind, I'm like, take it. That's still pretty good. That's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But that.
And he does. You know, Guillermo takes it. He's just like, I'll take that. It's progress. It's progress from where we were. You know, even we've had those moments early on where, you know, in season 1, weirdly enough, when you know, Nick Kroll comes to town and he gets the witch's hat and explodes the nightclub, Guillermo flying over the city with Nandor, afterwards he lets him go and he falls and he's in the hospital, and he comes over to him in the hospital, you are my and he doesn't finish his sentence, and is just disgusted by it. But that scene, this last episode or 2 episodes ago, was very, very well done, and that was Sarah Naftalis who wrote that episode, and she's so talented and amazing.
Oh yeah,
and just that moment of, I'm in the middle of 2 families, a chosen family that he's lived with for 13 years, who sometimes treat him like shit, but Guillermo does love them. Sure. And then his biological family, who are Van Helsings, who are
vampire killers,
born vampire killers. And so here he is in the middle of 2 families, 2 people that he loves, 2 groups that he loves, and he uses his sexuality as the buffer to calm the situation down. Brilliant. Which he hasn't talked about it for all his whole life. It's brilliant writing. It's just great writing. And when I read it, it was just, Sarah killed it with that, with that episode. So good. All our writers do, all our writers do. Speaking of writers in this episode, I mean, it's going to go down in history as one of the top episodes, just because of the way that they seamlessly started filming a show within a show. Yeah, like we're a documentary crew, and then your crew comes in top and films in top of it's like the layers, but so seamless and so smooth, and the way when you take us into the world of go flip yourself, and it's like, hey knuckleheads, welcome to Staten Island, and even the voiceover, I don't know if that was the voice actress who does the voiceover for all those HGTV shows. Oh my god, he's Staten Island is a rising city with just so amazing, and I was just like, this blows my mind, and we're doing a show within a show within a show, and only our writers would nail that, and both of you were so great on this. And it was just the improv on the show. Is there a scene that you were just having a hard time getting through? I know sometimes we improvise and we keep going and we just make each other laugh, but is there a scene that you were like, I'm having a tough time with this one? Okay, so the scene, remember when we're all sitting in the room, the fireplace room, and with the tree sticking through the room in that main room, and I've got the fancy room, and I've got the computer open, and I'm trying to explain where everybody's, this was going to happen to this room. And so I have to point to the computer, which is not on, and they're going to put that in later. So point to things on the computer, explain what we're doing, and try and keep Laszlo engaged to the point where he doesn't see that this is actually, I am who I really am, and keep Nadja excited and happy about it. And there's this whole thing going on between Nandor and Marwa that I'm also trying to. So there was so much, there's so much, and you're questioning who you're kind of questioning this whole thing. So I have to kind of keep you at bay. There's so much to do in that scene. I was so nervous. So I kept on running it. And I the first time I didn't get through it, and I was like, damn it, I didn't get through it. But the second time I got through it, and the third time, then we started to find these other moments. It was just a blast. The other thing that was so funny is when we did the stupid thing that they do in reality TV shows that was so funny, where you have a crazy moment where we reveal something that happened. This is what's going to happen. And she's like, Nadja's like, Natasha's like, and then we have to do that. Bad news? Bad news? We have bad news. Yeah. Bad news. And then we come back from the break and we have to do it again, but a little bit different to kind of make fun of how those reality shows do it. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I've got some bad news. And she's like, bad news? Bad news? Again. That cracked me up so hard. I just was loving it. And the editing where the zooming into your face, the zooming into their faces, and then Marwa's face, not sure what's happening, or great. My face, just who is this guy? I love it. And it's so great. It's so great. They did such a fantastic job.
We have way more fun in the afterlife.
If you haven't heard already, it's Smooth Sack Summer. That's right, this is the summer to keep your balls cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leader in below-the-belt grooming is making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with our code SHADOWS. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to prepare that summer body. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Revival toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Beach, lake, or shower, this razor will devour even the strongest eternal pubes. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code SHADOWS, manscaped.com. That's 20% plus free shipping with code SHADOWS at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
Were you surprised coming into the show of how much we do get to improvise? I know working on other shows, that's not usually the norm, you know? No. And so was that a nice surprise, or what did you think?
So I love that, first of all, everybody was so respectful of what was written, as you just spent like 5 minutes explaining how much you love what the writers write and whatnot. So everybody does it exactly as written, and that's fun. But then Yana Goroskaya, just one of my favorite directors we've ever worked with in all of the comedies we've ever shot. And we've been in this business for a quarter of a century now. She's one of the best, if not the best, that we've ever worked with. You know, she was like, okay, let's have fun. Do a fun run. And in the fun run, the only way you can fully improvise so well is if you fully understand who these people are and who these characters are. And there's like an unspoken bit that happens and you just keep going with it. Like you don't say, hey, we're going to do this right now. You just start going with it. And to me, what that does is it creates very real moments, which when you have a very real moment in a TV, a filming of a TV show, to me, I think that's just remarkable. And I think there are a lot of those on this show based out of the fact that you guys are on your toes. I mean, Jay got a chance to do Curb Your Enthusiasm years ago. And I mean, you can speak to that, how great that was in the moment to like even not have any lines, but just have to get to a place.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that show was, here's a strip of paper that says Larry walks in, he says this, then this happens, then you say this at the end of the scene. How you get there is up to you. And like, that means you have to be present. It forces you to be present and in the moment and within the reality of the scene. And so, you know, for an actor, the thing you want, I think sometimes we get bogged down with wanting to make sure we get the line right so that, you know, we're honoring the line. But really the truth is if the spirit of the line is perfect and you're being this person and you understand your character beautifully. And I think all the characters on the show, that's part of the reason why people love it, why it endures forever, is that everyone understands their point of view in pretty much every scenario. So once you get that deeply, the lines become just a tool to get that out. And so if you can improvise off of that, you get the lines out and then you still keep going, then usually, like Randy said, there's like a real moment. And so for Randy and me, I was only in the top of the show, but we definitely found some little improv-y moments within the lines that they gave us. And part of that was, our thing is like, how much energy can we give this opening thing that is totally like incongruous with the house we're about to walk into? Like, the more energy we give, the more we sort of give it this Christian rock feel, the funnier it is. And so as we're like having fun with each other's energy, then new little things were popping out. And it's so funny because once you start doing that, you forget about the lines. You just get the lines right because now you're into something else that's like what's behind the lines. And I feel like that is a great moment. That's a good place.
So I loved our scene that we had with Nandor in the man cave, in the Marwa man cave, where he's like lays down on the beanbag chair, and clearly you are there to be like, this doesn't look comfortable at all. So I have to like dispense with you while also pump him up, which is like, as you know, like if you have to do this so many times on the show, deal with like 5 different things as an actor, where you're keeping this at bay while at the same time trying to achieve this objective and whatnot. it just makes you a better actor. It's like, I always feel like people are better actors when they're eating in a scene. Like if you have like a thing of nuts and you're just eating, you just are more natural. That's just what it is. So if there's more things in your hopper, and so having you there kind of almost unmasking what I was doing or being like, this is a fraud type of scenario was great. I loved it.
It's so funny that you said that, because you in character of like that at the end, the big surprise that it's actually Simon the Devious, played by Nick Kroll, was you're playing that, but to fool everyone and to Guillermo be the one who's like hesitant, and seeing that and the way they wrote that the character knows how to get to Guillermo, which is, you know what, we should spruce up Guillermo's like dump of a room.
That's right.
And that wins him over. And then the idea that wins Guillermo, so you're like, okay, he's on board. Like, we got him. He's in.
That's right.
Because it's like, you'll get this luxury bed, blah, blah, blah. We open the wall, we make a room for, and that's how you win Guillermo over. You just have to find a way to like make him drop his guard, and he did it. And I think it's so funny that he completely forgets that he's like, you know, very cautious of you, both of you, and from the get-go, because you get into the house and say, and your opening line is like, so we told them that they had to leave the door open so we can come in and check their ambush time. And you go into the house, and it's so funny that you just needed to get back into that house, and you created a show for
150 episodes
with a guy who doesn't know how to do construction. They just picked a guy who you now look like. It's so funny. It's such a brilliant way to use twins.
And it's so sad that what the montage they have of Jay, and it's like, why didn't you just find someone who was already good at it? No, I found someone who was on their way, paid for their education. Was a father of you're a father of three. There's a picture with you and your family.
I know.
And then that's like the comedy and the tragedy is like, no, that was a family, man. You killed a father.
You took out the wrong one too. That's what's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
You could have killed Simon from the get-go. You killed the wrong twin.
Wrong one.
Like, it's insane.
I love that you talked about that. Like, that was the thing that got you, was the that I was going to just improve your room, because I feel like everybody has this thing about, like, you know, these types of shows that, okay, just make my room look nice. Everybody falls in love with that. Like, we are defenseless against, I'm going to make your room look better. This is funny.
But the fact that at the end, the reveal, because of budget, and then I have to pretend to call from the city and pretend to be, you know, oh, bad news, you can't do that. And it's like, well, sorry guys, due to the, you know, we never seen this before, but we can't do that, but we will do what we can. And then the reveal of like, you just put like the smallest like plant on top of the whole tree that's on the living room or the fancy room. You just put a plant on top of this fallen tree to cover up.
So dumb.
That's the best we could do with the budget.
I mean,
that's the best we could do with it. It's ridiculous.
Budgetary constraints.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
And then Naja's gold toilet was another fun one that I really liked, where she's like, and I literally leaned into her, I'm like, you can't even take a shit. And she's like, stop trying to watering down my brand.
That's right.
She wants a gold toilet so bad for no reason. She doesn't need a gold toilet. She can't take a shit.
She wants the bling. She wants the bling. And I think this is the other thing, as someone who was watching this episode from like even a little bit of a distance, because once I was out of it, I was just really watching you guys do it. There is this feeling, and I think in every season there is sort of one episode that kind of emerges as this, like, I don't know, this crazy memorable. There's so many memorable moments throughout the season, but one sort of episode becomes like that. Like for us, the Jackie Daytona one was such a iconic one. I think the two, the energy and the emotional vampire battle was another really big one in the first season. And, you know, the one where I think it was you going to the meeting with all those guys. It was
the mosquito hunters of the tri-state area.
Mosquito hunters of the that was another one of those.
Craig Robinson.
I mean, it's there are those like iconic moments, and as I'm watching this, as they're doing this episode, and you guys are doing it, I'm like, I think this might kind of be, there's been a lot already this season, like the wedding and whatnot, but like I think this episode has that potential to be this like very memorable one out of this season. You know, I
would agree. I think it's I mean, when I watched it and I got to see it a little bit you know, before this week, and it was just like, I couldn't stop laughing. Like, it's like, and I work on the show, you know, I get to, and you already know what the story is going to be in your head. You're like, well, I know what the story is. I read the script, so I know what it's probably going to come out looking like. But man, the show just, you know, it's running on all cylinders, and everyone on it and everyone they cast, you know, obviously both the, you know, Randy and Jay, you know, you both included. It's like there's no mistake. Like, everything is done with the reason, there's purpose, and the right person, and the right actors and the right people come and join us, because it just makes this world, like, I'm still blown away. It's season 4, and I'm still like watching episodes that I'm like, how, like, I get to do this, and I'm so lucky to be a part of the show. But how do they keep doing it? They just keep doing it. Like, it's just like, it just gets better and better and better. And this episode is gonna be like for the books. It's so good.
We have way more fun in the afterlife.
I want to ask Jay, so you got to be on set and kind of be like, you know, a little bit of like behind the camera and seeing how everything works and like this machine. What was your take on like the whole experience? What was that like? Was the set different than you expected, or was it very similar to what you're used to, or what was your whole take on having that experience?
So I'm going to talk about one thing that was really special, and it involves you as well, so maybe it's just because of the location of base camp versus where we were and how cold it was outside. There was a trailer. You guys have a trailer, this really big trailer that's right near the set where the actors hung out in between and before takes, so they didn't have to go all the way back to their individual trailers. And we've been on sets where, you know, all the actors are in their individual trailers and you really only see each other right when you step onto the set. But we got to spend hours with you guys in this trailer doing silly jokes and getting to know you and talk about stuff and talk about your experiences in Toronto and all this stuff. And so for that to happen for us, new people joining the set, we were suddenly put at total ease. We were making you guys laugh, so that we were hopefully in our own minds being like, all right, they have confidence in us. These guys who know each other so well, hopefully they'll feel comfortable with us on set and know that we are here to play. And all those moments, like backstage before we even got onto the set, to me were like, those were like gold moments that of course never, you know, I think we were doing some bit with Natasha where every time she said something, we were like, well, that's actually why we're here. We're here from Fox and we're here about quality control. And we just kept doing that dumb bit. And then everyone started joining in on that bit. And it was like this little thing we're doing in the trailer. And it gave us this feeling like, okay, we're being accepted into this group of really talented people, and we're able to just joke around and prove to them that we can play. And then that translates, you walk onto the set and you just see it go straight from that room. All the play and the joy that was in there goes straight onto the set. And so actors hanging out with each other is important. I think it builds the chemistry. You see it. So when we see it in backstage and then see it turn around right around on the stage, I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. In my brain, it like clicked in to watch all that happen. I'm like, oh, this is why, you know, your character and Nandor's character have a shorthand, because you guys were being funny in the trailer and I saw it happen back there, and why Matt is so funny with Natasha, and their energies, like they just get it, because it's not like they don't talk to each other except for when they step on the set. And so that was really, really cool for me to watch. The other thing that was super cool for me to watch was just to see how like Yana was working with everyone. And Randy and I said this, like, when you do a comedy, we've been on comedies before where the director and the crew and those people never laugh. You're like, what are you doing? These people are putting so much energy into this stuff. And I know it's funny, but they just feel like, okay, this isn't a laugh track show. So as soon as they get it, they're like, all right, moving on. And then you're left out there going, was that funny? I hope that was good. As soon as things cut, Yana laughs so hard and gives it up and tells you what she loves about it. Same with the crew, same with the producers and the writers. They're there to be like, all right, you guys, whatever you did on that last thing, that was so good. So watching all that stuff, I know this is a long answer, but you start to understand, like, these are the little things that good shows do that make it like, okay, the actors want to be there. They want to play. The people come in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. You nailed it on the head. It's nothing's better than when you can make the boom guy who's holding the boom up giggle and shake the boom and almost drop it because they're listening and laughing about what's happening. I always say that the crew has the longevity in this business because you'll always need a boom, a DP, and actors.
That's right.
I feel like there's just so many of us, and it's like if you get that gig, it's such a lucky break. But also they've seen it all, so they're like they can phone it in and they're just holding the boom and they're like, got it, we're rolling sound, okay, we got move on. But our crew is so engaged with what the storyline is. They themselves are laughing, and so there's been takes where that happens, where like literally our boom guy is literally laughing, and he almost drops the boom, and that's when you know that you're creating something good. When somebody who's seen it all, who's been around for years, and they've been on comedies and dramas, and they've been around A-listers and all the time, when they themselves are laughing and engaged in the storyline, you're like, oh, this is gonna be good. Whatever way they end up editing this, it's gonna look great because if this is how funny it is now.
And it's the whole crew. I mean, that's the thing. Like Jay and I have been around sets where, we've been on sets where the show doesn't know if it's going to come back. And, there's like a sense of nervousness around this. Whereas this set, everybody's like what you just said. They know they're a part of this really special show. Even when I went in to do my ADR session and I saw on Zoom, the post-production people, and they were like, we love this episode so much. We love this episode. We love working on it. We thought it was so great and so funny. You're like, oh, you guys still care about every little detail. And of course they do. It's not just a job to them. I think they, who weren't even there with us, some of the people were, but like the two people I'd never seen before, they care so deeply about it, and they know that they're a part of something that is so special. And I'll say this, we told people, we do sets at the Comedy Store all the time in Los Angeles, and they're like, when are you guys coming back here? And we were like, or they're like, can you come and do sets in November? We're like, no, we're actually going to be up in Toronto, and I don't know if we can say this, but we're shooting What We Do in the Shadows. And told other friends and whatnot. In the comedy community, I mean, the very, very top of the comedy community, they love the show so much. We got respect. The respect. We got so much love for like, oh my God, you're doing a couple of episodes of that show. That's phenomenal. And we're just like coming in for a few episodes. So understand that from just a guest starring standpoint, that like the cast and whatnot of which you are a part of, it is just held in such high regards all over the comedy community. Well,
that means a lot. And thank you for saying that, because that's not, comedians are hard to win over. I mean, they are the top at their game. So for a comedian to say that to another comedian, that's great. I love that. And we're so lucky to have you on the show. We're lucky to have you and hope to have a way to, no one ever dies in this world.
Hey man, a part of us is like in our heart of hearts, we're like, God, we'd love to come back because it was just so much fun to work with you. Like in some way, shape or form, like who knows, maybe, Nandor is like, I want these guys back in my life. Or Laszlo is like, I can't live without Bran and Toby. So we got to like reanimate them and bring them back. You never know. Or that we get a chance.
Love the show. He'd love the show.
Get a chance, or that we get a chance to make Go Flip Yourself as an actual show, to me would be hilarious.
That's so great. I mean, anything's possible in our world. Anything's possible. And we love you, Randy. We love you, Jay. It's just been phenomenal having you guys on. So on the show, we've been asking everyone who's been doing Behind the Shadows this question. This season, we have Naja's Nightclub. And although we mentioned it in your show, Go Flip Yourself. If you were to have a drink that was to your character, what would be the name of the drink and what would it consist of at Naja's Nightclub?
Okay, Jay, you got to do the Toby.
Toby is like 100% non-alcoholic. It'd probably be like milk with a shot of oat milk inside of it.
Oh my!
That's milk with a shot of oat milk.
And it's called like a white Ukrainian.
That's good. I like that.
Is it garnished with anything? Is there any like thing on top or any decoration or
maybe
anything
like a dollop of
that.
sugar around the rim? Like it's not even salt. Milk with a shot of oat milk in it, sugar around the rim. It's a white Ukrainian. There you go.
God, that's so good. I feel like
awful.
So my favorite drink now is the Aperol Spritz. It's like very Italian, it's like Aperol with a little bit of, with a little bit of ginger ale in it or Sprite or whatever, and you put a little tonic and then you put a orange slice in it. To me, it would be like Brands would be like an entire fruit salad inside of an Aperol spritz, and we call it, I don't know what would we call it, Jay? We call it like
I mean, I don't know.
We call it Brandtastic is what you call it. Brandtastic.
The knucklehead.
The knucklehead. The knucklehead. And it is Brandtastic.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We know you have another show right now coming out, Nosebleed. Do you want to give us some information where we can see that, what's all about?
Yeah, Ren, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead. So we did a show on ESPN Classic years ago. It was like Mystery Science Theater for the old weird sporting events that lived in the ESPN library, and it was called Cheap Seats. And for years, our fans have been like, we want you to bring it back. And so we finally have an opportunity to bring it back. Jay, you can continue on and explain it.
Yeah, so it's such a fun show, and you don't even have to be a fan of UFC to enjoy this show. It's just pure comedy, and it's been we did 6 episodes. The first episode is available on YouTube. If you just search Nosebleeds and Sklar Brothers UFC, you'll find it. It's basically Mystery Science Theater, as Randy said, with us running commentary and jokes and then jumping out into sketches. Rob Corddry's in the first episode. John Hamm plays a personal injury lawyer who's trying to rep fighters. Marilyn Rice Cub is in it. Tony Hale is in it. If we're lucky enough to do more, we'll write something for you to do in it. So this is the goal.
Gladly.
Yeah, man, it's pure comedy. That's what I love about this. It's really like, this isn't us trying to do a sort of silly sports show. This is us trying to do a full comedy swing, and they let us do it, and it's in our voice, and we're proud of it. So go watch the Nosebleeds, Sklar Brothers. Search for that on YouTube, and you'll find it, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. I think it's really fun.
Well, there you go, folks. You heard it here. Randy, Jay, thanks so much for joining us. And I can't wait to work together again in the future. Your show, our show, any show, because you're both a delight.
I would love it so much, Harvey. You're the best. Thanks for having us.
You're the best, man. And we'll have you come do our podcast, Dumb People Town, too, to promote your own. We can't wait.
Oh, let's do it. All right.
Behind the Shadows is a production of Straw Hut Media, hosted by Harvey Guillen, produced by Ryan Tillotson, Amada Sanchez, and Tyler Nielsen. Original music by Trevor Bumgar and Chris Hendricks. Vocals by Maggie Glass. If you don't already, subscribe wherever you're listening, and make sure to follow Behind the Shadows podcast on Instagram for more behind-the-scenes content. And tune in live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific on the What We Do in the Shadows subreddit for an AMA with Harvey and special guests.
Breathing is so overwhelming, heartbeats are a hassle. Tell me, why would anyone want to be alive? Death might have a reputation before she arrives, but trust me, we have way more fun in the afterlife. We have way more fun in the afterlife.
See you next week.